Welcome to View from the Top. My guest this week is Jochen Zeitz, the Chief Executive of Puma, the German sporting goods company that's the world's third largest. Jochen, welcome. Let's start looking at the World Cup in South Africa this summer. A lot of tickets still unsold, concerns about security. Is there a danger it could be a flop?
I don't think so. We have those kind of discussions ahead of World Cups as well as Olympics or big events every single time. I remember the Olympics in Athens. It was exactly the same discussion. I think overall we can be happy that there is a World Cup in Africa. It's going to be great for the whole continent, not just South Africa. And of course it will be different to the World Cup we've seen in Germany 4 years ago. But that's what these events are all about. They are special to the country, the area they're in, and Africa is special to the world.
Talking about Germany and looking at Puma, I mean, is this going to be as lucrative a World Cup for sporting goods producers?
I think in general, yes. Of course, we are in much more uncertain economic times than we were 4 years ago when the World Cup actually happened in Germany. But it's a global event. Global viewership will be very high. We're almost on the same time zone as Europe. And so from that perspective, I think it's going to be a big success once again.
Are you looking for a big sales uptick from the World Cup?
Although the environment may be improving economically, it's still a difficult situation. So while we will see an uptick just from World Cup related sales, it doesn't automatically mean that all sales will improve as a result of that. Overall, I think it will definitely have a positive effect on us.
Can you maybe say something just generally about how you're seeing consumer behave in various parts of the world? I mean, where are you seeing the recovery?
Well, I think overall the stock markets are already anticipating a big improvement. If you take Asia as an example, taking Japan out of the equation, I think the downturn has not been as significant as we've seen it in Western Europe in particular, and some Eastern European markets or the United States. For us, the emerging markets were always the markets that have been doing better in the last couple of years due to the fact that there was still lots of catch up to play in terms of overall consumption, and that's something that will continue this year. But hopefully we will also see some improvement in Western Europe and the US. But again, I think we need a little bit more time in the year, although the first quarter is over now. But for the excitement to carry through to the consumer, it's still a little bit too early.
Going back to the World Cup, I just wonder, can you explain how long you've been planning for this World Cup? Well,
Africa has been part of the Puma sponsorship portfolio for well over 10 years. I think 14 years ago we actually started to sponsor our first African team with Cameroon, and then Eto'o as a top player followed rather soon. And so Africa has been very important for us from a pure communication point of view in the football category. We now sponsor 12 national teams, and we will have 4 African teams in the World Cup out of 7 teams that qualified in total. So for us it's like a home play, and as such the role of African football in our overall global campaign will be very important.
But you don't have South Africa, the hosts. Is that a regret?
No, well, not really. I mean, South Africa hasn't played that well in the past African Cup of Nations and even World Cups if ever they qualified. So we think that with particularly Ivory Coast as well as Cameroon, we have 2 of the strongest African teams, as well as all the other ones, with the exception of Nigeria and South Africa.
And can an African team win this time round?
I think it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a very tough World Cup, and the big players will have a significant play in this World Cup, and the groups are very difficult also for the African teams. I don't think that this World Cup will already be the one, but you never know.
And looking at the sporting goods industry as a whole, you've got Nike and Adidas who are much bigger than you are. Some people go as far to say it's an effective duopoly. What's Puma's role? Is the space for Puma in a duopoly?
I don't think so. I think that the times are over when it's just about the biggest that divide the pie among themselves. In fact, we've been a brand that has been growing, with the exception of last year's 14 years consecutively, of which 10 years were double-digit growth. So that has proven to the industry and to the world that we, as a smaller player, can actually outgrow some of the other players in the market. So it's about creativity, it's about speed to market, and as such we've actually grown our football business double digits ever since we started a new campaign for in the soccer category. So we've been gradually growing our business ever since the World Cup in Germany.
Can you really compete with something like Adidas in football? I mean, there were stories after the last World Cup when Italy, a Puma team, won, that you were struggling to meet demand, and Adidas were sort of rubbing their hands because they were getting out Italy T-shirts.
No, that's not the case. I mean, we were not struggling, but obviously you never know who will win, and when you have the winner, then it will take time to fulfill demand. And of course, after a World Cup, after a victory, everyone wants the jersey or the T-shirt the next day. But those are normal things that happen to anybody that has a world champion under contract.
And Reebok, Adidas's sort of problem child brand, I suppose, has got a target of becoming the third biggest sporting brand in the world. Obviously wants to overtake you. Do you think that's realistic?
Look, we focus on ourselves, and the Puma brand still has a lot of potential to grow in the next year. So it's not a question of whether we are the second biggest, third or fourth. It's about the desirability of the brand. If a brand is desirable, we'll grow our business. The Puma brand still has lots of potential. Where it ends up in terms of absolute size in relation to others is really not something that we are looking at.
But you're majority owned by PPR, the French luxury and retail conglomerate. Is there a sense, though, that Puma could move, I mean, maybe should already move out of the kind of sporting goods tag towards a more sort of luxury tag? I mean, your profit margins are very high.
No, not at all. In fact, when PPR invested, the strategy that we had already put in place was very much appreciated, and that was actually the reason why PPR invested in us, not to build another luxury brand, but by actually complementing the luxury portfolio with a brand that could be more mass oriented in terms of its sport and lifestyle positioning. So we complement their portfolio, and there's no question about the positioning of the brand.
And you mentioned being wanting to be the most desirable sports brand, but is there you've just added that you also want to be the most sustainable. Sustainability is a word lots of companies are using. Isn't it just a gimmick, though?
Oh, I would certainly hope it isn't. In fact, if you look at the state of our planet, the next generations wouldn't be around if we considered sustainability as a gimmick. I think not only do we have a responsibility, but we believe as a sport lifestyle brand that we actually have the opportunity to really impact positive change, perception, consumer demand in that regard. And that's why we want to be a leader. Once again, just like we innovated the sport lifestyle world, we also want to be the innovator and creative leader in the sustainability environment, and hence we've made sustainability part of the overall mission statement and positioning of the brand, by not only wanting to be the most desirable, but also the most sustainable brand in the industry.
But how will we know that you're more sustainable than, say, Adidas?
Well, for example, we've implemented what we call the Sustainability Index, or abbreviated actually the SINDEX. That index gives our consumer and the public a clear measurement as to how sustainable the company is. We've already, since 2005, published our annual sustainability report, which gives exact details of the environmental footprint that the company has on the environment. And so full transparency is basically how we counter an argument of just calling something eco or not being eco. I think in that respect we very much differentiate ourselves from others that don't walk the talk.
But will you be able to see what Adidas's position on this index is?
No, because we don't know what their criteria are, but the big difference to some of our other competitors, we are actually saying when a product is actually fulfilling the SINDEX, a sustainability index, what that means. Some other companies, they talk about sustainable or eco products, but they actually don't disclose what it means. And for us, it's very important. Obviously, in a lot of industries like the food industry, we already have label specification. You have to say what is actually in the product. We also have that, but not to an extent where you can actually see if a product is sustainable or not. And that's exactly the visibility that we are providing with our product, in addition to reducing our overall footprint, where we have clearly outlined steps that we are going to take until 2015, which includes packaging, which goes to waste, and so on.
You've been chief executive now for 17 years, I think, since you were 29. Do you still have the fire in your belly, or is it time to kind of move on for another challenge?
If it was, I wouldn't tell you today, but I still enjoy what I'm doing. In fact, it's a fascinating company, it's a fascinating brand. We never stand still. There's never been a dull moment in the company, so the brand is continuing to be extremely exciting with lots of potential and opportunity. So I don't look back, I look forward, and hence I don't carry the 17 or 20 years with the company on my shoulders. It's just something that I've experienced and enjoyed.
Jochen Zeitz, thank you very much.
Thank you.